The final trailer for Fantastic Beasts was just released, and boy were there a lot of Easter eggs and huge things to talk about. I did a breakdown for the other 2 trailers, so I might as well do one for every trailer that they put out. Now, I have many theories in this video. Some might be right, some might be wrong. They're just my opinion based on the context clues and my knowledge of the Potter universe. Because of this, there might be some spoilers, because I will be predicting what will happen. But of course, not all of it will be right. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's jump right into it. The trailer starts out with a conversation between Newt and Dumbledore. Dumbledore gives Newt an address for a safe house in Paris, which we know is where most of the film will take place. This is most likely Nicolas Flamel's house, who we saw in the last trailer. Rowling revealed that he does indeed live in France, and he and Dumbledore are good friends, so it makes sense that Flamel's house is the one he's referring to. We then hear Grindelwald giving a speech.
My dream, we who live for truth, for love.
This one line has a lot of stuff in it. The truth and love part might have to do with Dumbledore, as we know that Dumbledore is in love with him.
The moment has come to take our rightful place in the world.
The part about taking their rightful place in the world refers to something that Grindelwald and Dumbledore discussed as kids. They wanted to expose wizards to muggles and rule over them. While Dumbledore backed out after his sister died, Grindelwald still took those ideas and tried to make them happen during his most destructive days. He then goes on to say,
"Where we wizards were free."
This basically means that he's going to make it so that they no longer have to hide their magic from the non-magical world. The line he says next is,
"Join me or die."
Showing just how ruthless Grindelwald really is. While he says that, we get some more shots of the carriage being pulled by Thestrals. If you look closely, you see what looks like the president of MACUSA, the American version of the Ministry of Magic. This makes me think that this scene is at the beginning of the film, because at the end of the last movie, Grindelwald was in American custody. If I had to guess, I'd say that they were transporting him somewhere else, most likely to France, seeing as that's where the majority of the film takes place. There's an interesting shot of Grindelwald in a chair, possibly waiting to be interrogated. He has his long hair still, so I'm assuming that this takes place right before the scene with the carriage. That might even be the first shot of the film. He has a force field around him, which could possibly be holding him there or maybe protecting him from something. Going back to the carriage, we see someone step out over the city. I think he's going to aid Grindelwald in his escape from the carriage. The next shot shows the Elder Wand in someone's hand looking out at the carriage. We know that the Elder Wand belongs to Grindelwald. The guy looking over the city might have Grindelwald's wand and is about to give it to him to help him escape, because in the next shot we see Grindelwald using it on the carriage. Also, the shot with the Elder Wand looks out at the Thestrals pulling the carriage, looking as though it's flying normally and not being attacked. This leads me to believe that this is before Grindelwald attacked them and that he's about to give it to Grindelwald. We then see Grindelwald, with the Elder Wand, make snake-like creatures attack the Navigator. This could be the same spell that Draco used in the Chamber of Secrets.
Serpent Sortier!
Grindelwald then drowns one of the oars in the carriage. He then rips the door off, allowing all of the water and most likely the oar to fall out. There's also a quick shot that you probably would not even see if you played it normally, but Grindelwald sends a spell right into someone's face. The next quick shot then shows the guy he blasted in the face falling off the carriage. The next scene we see is probably the biggest and most exciting part of the trailer, which is Claudia Kim's character reveal, whose name we did not know until now.
Claudia, what's your character's name?
I'm Nagini.
We hear Credence call her Nagini, and she transforms into a snake that we are very familiar with. Nagini is of course Voldemort's snake, meaning that she will eventually be stuck as a snake permanently. This is due to her being a maledictus. This is a blood curse that witches and wizards can get that slowly transforms you into a beast, never able to turn back into a human again. This is honestly a huge game changer, and I'm really excited to know more about this. I really want to hear more about her story. Like, how did she meet Voldemort? Why is she so loyal to him? Especially because she seems to be on the good guy's side here. Did she become loyal to him just because he can speak Parseltongue? Or is there another reason? I'm sure that she must have gotten lonely, not being able to talk to anyone, as very few can speak the snake language. She would also later become one of Voldemort's Horcruxes, meaning she has part of Voldemort's soul inside of her. It now makes sense why she was able to have a piece of Voldemort's soul, as Voldemort possessed many other animals and creatures, and they all died within hours of him possessing them. Now we know that he was able to do it with Nagini just like he did with Quirrell, because she was originally human. I just can't wait to see what they do with her for the rest of the 5-film Fantastic Beasts series. We get some more shots of Hogwarts. We get a shot of the bridge which Voldemort and his Death Eaters walked across during the Battle of Hogwarts. We also see the Great Hall, which matches the other films perfectly. We hear a voiceover saying,
"The wizarding and non-wizarding worlds have been at peace for over a century. Grindelwald wants to see that peace destroyed."
Once again, touching on Grindelwald wanting to expose wizards and witches to muggles and start a war. There's a shot of the circus out of control with people running for their lives. This is caused by a creature named a Zawu. It looks like it was released from the circus. We also get some more shots of a beast called a Lethifold, which was in the original Fantastic Beasts book that Rowling released in the early 2000s. It looks like they engulfed pretty much the whole city, so that should be interesting. We get some more shots of the Mirror of Erised when Dumbledore says that he can't fight Grindelwald.
It has to be you.
This time we get some shots of Dumbledore and Grindelwald young. The two actors that played them in their very small role of Deathly Hallows Part 1 make an appearance. Jamie Campbell returns as Grindelwald, and Toby Regbo, who is now known for playing King Francis in Reign, returns as well. It's cool that they were able to bring them back a whole 8 years later. Touching on this line of Dumbledore saying that it can't be him is because he's still in love with Grindelwald and doesn't want to face him. This is partly because of his desires and partly because of what happened with his sister. Facing Grindelwald would be facing how his sister was killed during a duel between his brother, him, and Grindelwald. We see a shot of Tina looking at a wall with writing on it. Many fans speculated that this was a family tree that linked Credence to the Lestrange family. Tina looking at the tree of the Lestrange family makes sense, as she is most likely jealous of Newt's first love interest, Leta Lestrange. It looks as though she was startled by someone walking in on her, which only confirms that further. We see Queenie looking at a bird drawn on something. I don't think it's the same wall that Tina was looking at. In fact, I don't think it's a wall at all. It moves, almost as if it was blowing in the wind like a flag. The next shot shows Nicholas Flamel, and he's actually outside. We saw how weak he was in the last trailer.
Jacob Kowalski.
Oh.
So the fact that he's outside, especially during what looks like a battle, is both exciting and frightening. This looks like the scene in the first trailer where Newt and his brother are dueling someone in harsh wind and with Ivy behind them. We get some shots of the gang running and going through obstacles. I'm guessing this is in the French Ministry of Magic. Based on this and the other trailers, I think they have to break in and get through obstacles to retrieve something. Earlier in the trailer, we also saw a statue open for Tina. I assume that this is the entrance to the ministry, as she's wearing the same coat that she had on next to the statue. We also see Tina and Newt get stopped by Theseus Scamander, Newt's older brother. He was most likely doing his job, protecting that place. My guess is that this is the first time we see Theseus in the film. Tina knocks him into a chair and ties him up, and Newt says,
"I think that might have been the best rabbit of my life."
We know that Newt sort of lives in the shadow of his more successful brother, and we see just how envious he is, as he enjoys seeing his brother getting tied up a little bit too much. There's an interesting shot of Newt and Jacob in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by grassy hills. This is most likely the hills of Scotland, where Hogwarts is located. It even looks like a shot we got of Hogwarts earlier in the trailer. I imagine they're on their way to Hogwarts. This is further proven when we see a shot of Hogwarts students running and Quidditch players flying next to the castle. This might be due to a creature being released when Newt and Jacob showed up. This is a cool shot, as we see the Quidditch pitch in the background. The last time it made an appearance in a film, it was not a pretty sight. We also see a port key, something that we saw in the Goblet of Fire film, and we saw used in the books a number of times. As for the man standing there when they take it, I'm not quite sure who that is, but he has a red beard and crummy clothes. I'm interested to find out who that is, especially if I'm right about those being the hills next to Hogwarts. Perhaps Dumbledore arranged for this mystery man to help them get out. In the first trailer, we saw Aurors come to Dumbledore looking for Newt. Dumbledore showed no interest in helping them find Newt, so it would make sense for Dumbledore to make sure that they got out safely and avoid the Aurors, and I'm assuming that this man might do just that for them. There's a mysterious shot where Newt blows gold dust in a circle, and then we see Newt standing next to a creature's face and arm in the gold dust. It kind of looks like Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm assuming that this is a new creature of some kind and literally is the gold dust. Or perhaps the gold dust is the only way to be able to see him, as he's invisible. Both of these theories are probably wrong, but I guess we'll see. We hear Dumbledore say to Newt that he admires fires him because he doesn't seek power. This is a touchy area for Dumbledore, as he himself has a problem with power. He craved it when he and Grindelwald were forming their plans of domination. It also consumed him when he became obsessed with the Deathly Hallows, and he even refused the job of Minister of Magic, knowing that he couldn't be trusted with the power. We see a man walk through a wall, which might be a secret entrance to something, much like the entrance to platform 9 3/4. There's another shot where Nagini in human form has a creature pop out at her. If you listen closely, it makes a hissing sound, so I'm assuming it's a snake. We know she works with snakes in the circus and is able to become one herself, but I'm not sure why a snake would turn on her like that. Maybe because she tries to be one of them and they know that she's not a true snake, but rather a human with a disease. Again, there are so many roads that they could go down for a character, and I'm so interested to see what they do. We then see who I believe to be Newt looking at what is most likely another new creature. We also see Newt try to calm down the Zawut that we saw get escape from the circus earlier. We see Newt with a little bow truckle and see him coming out of his suitcase in Nicholas Flamel's house. As I said earlier, this was the safe house that Dumbledore had given him the address for earlier. We see some more shots of Newt riding a Kelpie, which is very reminiscent of Harry riding Buckbeak. We see what looks like Muggle planes flying over and shooting in a war zone. Perhaps Grindelwald was successful in challenging Muggles, although I am wondering about this scene as there are no other shots like this in any of the trailers. Here we also see who I believe to be Skender, the owner of the circus, and I'm just throwing this out there. That could be the mystery man at the portkey with the red beard. I highly doubt this though, because I doubt he'd leave the circus, especially when all hell was breaking loose. We get a quick shot of a creature's foot stomping on the ground in front of Newt. I think that this is the Thunderbird from the first film, which we saw fly away at the end. It could possibly give Newt hope when he's down on the ground or has given up. There's a shot of an explosion where a cat creature appears. I think it's a Zawu. It has the 2 horns on it, so I'm assuming that's what it is, but its mane kind of lights up, which is cool. There's actually a lot going on here. You can see a very small cat-like creature that we saw in the last trailer, and everything looks really distorted. If you pause right before the explosion, it looks like it happens in the French Ministry of Magic, and not by Credence hitting the cage, as they made it look like. I think they're 2 separate scenes. We also hear Theseus tell Newt that he has to pick a side, and Newt replies saying that he doesn't take sides. This is most likely referring to him choosing between his brother Theseus or his ex-love interest Lita Lestrange, who is shown in the very next shot. We see Tina ask him what he's going to do. At first it seems like she's talking about Lita, but when Newt says,
I'll do something,
it appears that they're at Grindelwald's meeting where he gave the speech that I mentioned earlier. I'm guessing that they heard about the speech and Newt chose to go there. This is most likely his first attempt at killing Grindelwald, as Dumbledore had asked him to do. Considering that this is probably mid-movie, I think he's going to fail, especially because he's basically winging it, not knowing what he's going to do. We also see a shot of who I think to be Nagini. She's in the water and reaching out to someone. Most likely she's reaching out to Credence, as the two seem to have a bond, which we've seen in the last 2 trailers and even in the first release of that picture with all the characters. There's another shot of Queenie crying in the rain, possibly about Jacob. We see a quick shot of the Niffler being taken out of Newt's suitcase. It looks to be in the same location as the gold dust scene, and we can even see some of the gold dust still there. So the Niffler and this dust creature might go hand in hand in some way. We once again hear Lita saying,
You never met a monster you couldn't love.
Possibly referring to herself. Evidence shows that this is where the big battle will take place. Almost all of the characters are there. We see Credence and Nagini looking into each other's eyes, Credence looking very worried. This could perhaps be him getting ready to fight Grindelwald alongside Newt and Theseus. He could have some resentment after what Grindelwald did to him in the last movie. If I had to guess, I'd say that Credence dies in this battle. This might also be what makes Nagini snap, as she and Credence are very close, but we'll have to wait and see. We then hear Theseus say,
let's take him.
And Grindelwald sets a fire around him before the duel, and you know that that's going to be the start of this epic final battle. We then get some rapid fire shots. We see Theseus and Newt shooting up at the fire that Grindelwald made. We see an explosion through a window in what looks like the mountains. Earlier in the trailer, we saw a mountain explode. This could possibly be this explosion, or perhaps it was a new beast that did it. We get a shot of Dumbledore showing his students how to defeat a boggart, expanding the scene that we saw in the last trailer. We see some of the fire Grindelwald made raid shoot up at Tina, then the whole gang including Nagini and some of the other circus members standing together. We see more of Newt on a Kelpie, and an explosion made by a man who's smiling evilly at what he had done. This might be the man that helped Grindelwald on the carriage, who was looking out over the city. Then we get another shot of Newt and Theseus most likely fighting Grindelwald, right before the title comes up showing the Deathly Hallows logo. And that about does it. I'm sure I missed some things, and maybe you guys have some different ideas or theories than me, so let me know down in the comments. I'm so excited for this movie to come out. We only have a month and a half until the release. Thanks so much for watching, guys. You can follow me on social media. Links for that will be in the description. And I want to give a huge shout out to all my Patrons listed below. If you want to be listed on my next video, plus a bunch of other rewards, check out my Patreon, which is linked down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you press that subscribe button to help grow the channel. Again, thank you so much for watching, and look out for more great videos on the way.